Emperor, we come for you. We come for you.
Did IQs just drop sharply while I was away?
Long live the fighters!
Hello again, and welcome to another episode of the Fusion Underground. This is episode number 75, and here at the Fusion Underground, what we try to do is we try to make sense of the world by having principled discussions about such topics as entertainment, current events, politics, and culture. Our mission is to educate people to become critical thinkers so they can live more empowered and happier lives. And I do have one gigantic surprise for everybody. Interwebs. Jason is back.
Okay, prepare to be disappointed.
Yeah. From both sides. From both sides. This episode of the Fusion Underground is brought to you by the letter H.
Hello.
How are you doing, brother?
I'm good, brother. I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good.
Good.
Living the dream. We've got all kinds of crap to talk about today.
I'm excited.
Tonight.
Let's clarify.
Whatever you want to call it. Or there's a lot going on. We've got Kyle Rittenhouse trial underway.
Oh yes.
We have some thoughts on that. And we've got
that was cryptic. We have thoughts. Yes, we do.
We do have
multiple indeed.
Multiple indeed. We're going to try to get into some of the Kyle Rittenhouse stuff. As of today, the closing arguments were today.
Mm-hmm.
And I wasn't able to follow much of any of it at all today, other than a couple of passing tweets on Twitter.
Neither was I.
But what I really loved was during the closing arguments, I really, really enjoyed seeing the prosecutor hold up the AR-15, pointed the weapon at the jury,
Mm-hmm.
sighted down the top of the barrel, and had his finger on the trigger. This is a man who has been berating the defense about gun safety, right? Proper etiquette, proper use of firearms, proper control of firearms. And then in a court of law, he violates
All of
the
it.
very basic rules,
Right.
of gun safety.
Uh-huh. He was Alec Baldwin in a suit.
Yes.
Sorry. That was sorry. Too soon? Too soon. I apologize. That
Pointed
was
the weapon at the jury. Could you imagine if you're sitting there in the jury and then all of a sudden this crazy lawyer points a gun right at you?
That's exactly what he wanted.
Right.
Yes. That made everybody there who has been looking at that weapon throughout the entire trial, knowing it is fully unloaded, as inoperable and unfireable as it can be, and yet just looking down the end of that, the business end of that AR, makes everybody squirm.
Yeah.
If any of them in the jury were armed, they would have shot that guy.
Right.
Which is exactly the point he was trying to make.
Right. You know, here's the interesting thing about this trial. Here's one of the things that I learned about this trial. I've learned a lot of stuff about this, a lot of things about this trial, particularly about human behavior. But one thing that I've really found fascinating that I've learned from liberal Twitter is that handguns, semi-automatic handguns, when you point them at somebody's head, that is not a threatening gesture.
Yes.
That is what I learned from liberal Twitter over the past few days. That is the argument. That is an argument that people are making, that yes, even though Goss, or whatever his name is, the guy that had his bicep blown off, he pointed a firearm at Kyle Rittenhouse within like 2 feet away from, he was like 2 feet away from him. He pointed the weapon at him. Yeah. But because he didn't have an AR-15, he only had a semi-automatic pistol, he was not in any way threatening. By pointing the pistol at him, he did not threaten him. I want that in writing. Like, I want it in writing that I can point my firearm at somebody's face and it's not a threatening gesture. Can you imagine?
You have to
I have
remember,
no words. I don't even know where to begin to even
see, and that doesn't surprise me. I know that's dumbfounding.
It absolutely
yes,
is dumbfounding.
It's confounding. I get where you're at, and you're not wrong. But the enemy of the liberal mass is the AR-15. Period.
Right.
That there's no reason. I mean, you've heard this. How long? There is absolutely no reason for anyone to own an AR. Period. End of discussion. And for any civilian to own one, you must have intention of slaying mass people.
Slaying, yes. Slaying.
That's exactly what I use that on purpose.
There, today in closing arguments, the prosecutor, what's his name? Binger or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. What?
There are two primary, there might be a team of more than two, but I've only seen two prosecutors here for the state, right? There's the skinny guy, Binger, wears the glasses, and then there's the heavier set gentleman. And people on Twitter are referring to the heavier set guy as Fatlock.
Fatlock, I've heard that.
So I almost said not Fatlock, the other guy.
The other guy.
The other guy, during closing arguments, actually said, and I quote, "You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun." Think about that for a moment.
Then that is a start of an argument basically saying that nobody should be carrying a firearm.
Correct. That's exactly what that is, because that is not how any of this works.
No. So if you're not the one who brought a gun,
right,
then it's not that you don't have the right to self-defense. You no longer have a means of self-defense. That's a very important distinction. And it's one I think everybody should clue in on, because that's the goal anyway, is to eliminate your means of self-defense.
Now let's take for a second that sentence. You lose the right to self-defense when you're the one who brought the gun. We should test that hypothesis. We should test that statement. And how would we test that statement? We change the context in which you just change the person, change the people, and change the environment and change the event. For example, and to see, does that continue to hold weight? I've been saying for years that every woman should be carrying concealed.
Yes. I'm sorry. That is correct.
You know, there are women who get assaulted, and I think, please carry, because you will quickly equalize those kinds of situations, assuming that you can, still draw, get the firearm out, etc. But it gives you a lot of just comfort knowing that if you're in a somewhat sketchy environment, you at least have a way to possibly get you out of that sketchy environment. Okay, so let's assume for a moment that there is a woman leaving work late at night The parking lot is dark. Not, I was going to say darkly lit. That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, no, I knew what you were going to say too. That's weird.
The parking lot is dark. She's going out to her car and she gets attacked
Right.
by a rapist.
Yeah. Well, and you don't even have to go that far. I understand right where you're headed, but yes, even just attacked, according to, I'm sorry, go ahead.
She's being attacked.
Mhm.
And a crazy guy is trying to throw her down to the ground and tear her clothes off. Does she lose the right to self-defense because she is the one who is carrying the firearm?
No, because it's a lady. And remember, that
right.
changes all the rules.
Right. Well, what if it's a trans woman?
Well, I don't know. Is that still a woman?
Does that?
I don't know. Is that a he, she, them, or is that a bug thing? What if they self-identify as demon?
What if she's a trans man? Biological female at birth, but who identifies as a male, and she's carrying a weapon, which I would applaud him for carrying. They for carrying, and he gets attacked in the parking lot by a crazy dude who's trying to rip her clothes off. If he has the firearm, right? Does he lose the right to self-defense because he's the one who brought the gun? The answer is unequivocally no.
Of course.
So this argument, it loses. It doesn't. Not only does it not pass the smell test, it doesn't pass even the very first hypothetical but very realistic scenario that we can come up with right away. And that's not a crazy scenario. It's not like I created that scenario. I didn't say being attacked by Martians or anything like that, right? It's something that happens too frequently in a country of 300 million people.
In our society, yes, women are attacked.
Right.
Whether it's by a rapist or not. I mean,
right.
Yes, I understand. And that was my first thought as well. However, but even if a woman's just simply being attacked, are you telling me that she no longer has the right to self-defense because she might have a 38 pistol in her purse?
Right.
No, that's retarded.
Right. This is just
that's asinine, borderline retarded mentality.
Yeah, this entire trial has been it's just been one stupid train wreck.
It's been a shit show. Let's just call it for what it is. It's disgustingly bad. And this is the part that really upsets me about the whole thing. I'm genuinely concerned that they're actually going to come out with a guilty verdict.
I'm concerned by that too.
And there's absolutely, you look at the evidence, you look at the situation, you look at the video, you look at the surveillance, you listen to the testimony, the first person eyewitness account.
Yeah.
There's no way he is guilty.
Right.
None. Everyone knows this. And everyone believes that there is also a fair probability that he actually is found guilty.
Yeah.
That's disturbing.
The arguments that leftists are making against Kyle Rittenhouse just so that they can sit on their throne of moral certitude is astounding to me. For example, they're trying to make first they were saying that Kyle shouldn't have been there anyway. Okay. Well, that has all the same energy of she shouldn't have gone to that party.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Then they were saying things like, well, he shouldn't have had the AR-17. He deserved it because he shouldn't have, he was attacked. Yes, we acknowledge that he was attacked by the rioters. But if he wasn't there, or if he hadn't been carrying the AR-15, they wouldn't have attacked him. It's the same energy of she shouldn't have gone to the party and she shouldn't have been wearing the miniskirt.
Right. If she wouldn't have worn such provocative clothing, she wouldn't have been raped because she wouldn't have made herself a visual target.
It's the same kind of argument that they're making. then they're also
And you know what? Hold on. I'm going to stop. Let's pretend that I actually agree with that statement. Okay, and we'll take the gal at the party. So I know this sounds ridiculous, but go with me for a second. Let's pretend I agree with that. Okay, I agree with the premise that Rachel should not have gone to the party wearing that outfit.
Sure.
She attracted the wrong kind of attention. You know what? That is true. That is correct. You are not wrong. That does not mean that the resulting action of her being drugged and raped is now excusable.
Correct.
Because of that
Correct.
primary action.
Yeah. One can reflect and say, we do it all the time. We reflect and we say, you know what? I shouldn't have gone there.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't have put myself in that situation because then that thing happened. That very bad thing to me happened.
Yeah. I knew better than to drive down or walk down that dark alley. That
Right.
does not mean that myself getting mugged
is
now excusable because I just
Right.
walked down the wrong alley.
Right. So multiple things can be true simultaneously. I put myself in a bad situation, true. But that also doesn't negate the fact that a crime was committed against me either.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Right. So yes, there's a lesson to be learned there, but there's also justice that needs to be delivered to the offending party.
Correct.
Right.
Correct. And I've heard the argument that he shouldn't have been there in the first place. You're talking about an area that was run, with rioters.
Well,
they shouldn't have been there in the first place either.
If that's the point.
The case,
they
then
shouldn't
you
have
cannot. I mean, if that's your argument, you should not have been there. Well, then nobody should have been there.
Nobody should have been there. The fact that the prosecution today actually did say that all of the rioters who were there were actually heroic. They were performing heroic deeds. And I'm like,
since when is burning your city down heroic?
I don't know. Apparently as of today.
Sorry. Go ahead.
I just, the arguments against this, and the fact that liberals have been twisting themselves up into knots and making themselves look like pretzels to try to cover for the two guys who were shot and killed. That these are not nice guys.
Mm-hmm.
Rosenbaum, the one of the victims that was killed, he anally raped and abused little boys.
Yeah.
He had just gotten out of jail. He shouldn't have been there. If anybody shouldn't have been there, he shouldn't have been there.
Right.
And yet these people are trying to make him look like he's some kind of a saint. Now, I'm not trying to argue that he should have been shot and killed.
Right.
Right. Because of all of that. However, he was shot and killed because he attacked another guy, and then the guy that he attacked retaliated in self-defense. So I'm going to pardon my language, but you fuck around, you find out. He fucked around and he found out.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I can't have a lot of remorse for that. I can't have a lot of empathy. And I'm certainly not going to have any empathy and try to excuse the actions of a known pedophile, a known child rapist.
That was
not going to do that.
The funny part is there was a few lines of behavior, regardless of what side of the aisle or what side of the political spectrum or what our ideological or religious, any of those beliefs, no matter how far apart people in this country were, there were a few sacred things that we could all come together on.
Mm-hmm.
Rape, bad. Pedophilia, bad. At least those two, we knew and we could agree those are bad.
Yeah.
Now, we don't even agree on that anymore.
Right.
And it's absolutely mind-boggling to me.
Right.
But this is not the first time here in the last 18 months where we have sanctified and bestowed sainthood upon hardened disgusting criminals.
Right.
Hell, the BLM riots that started all of this crap was over a gentleman who was killed or died, if you will, in police custody, who earlier held a woman's unborn baby at gunpoint.
Yeah.
That would be George Floyd, if anybody out there doesn't know that. And we excuse that. And not only excuse that, but we actually raise them to the status of sainthood. Seriously? Anyway.
Yeah, I don't know. The world is crazy.
Yes, it is.
Clown world. Clown world continues to honk on. I have to make tonight's episode a little bit lighthearted,
Okay.
if you will. I have something that I've been wanting to share with you for a while.
I'm not sure whether I should be excited or scared.
Yeah. As a
So-
kid, did you ever play the game in your living room, like with a balloon? Don't let the balloon touch the ground.
Well, yeah, I was a kid.
Yeah, you pop the balloon up, and it's like, don't let it hit the ground, and
Right. If it hits the ground, you're out, you lose.
Right.
Whatever. Yeah.
Well, now they have a World Cup for that.
What? Wait. Well, no.
Yeah,
What?
yeah, they have a World
do you-
Cup
For what?
for not letting the balloon hit the ground. Watch. Take.
Wait, no. What?
Yes. Watch.
Oh God.
¡Qué manera de salvarlo! ¡Qué
Cuidado.
manera de salvarlo, por favor!
Cuidado.
¡Oh,
el
faltó
animal
que!
pesa.
¡Francesco! ¡No me lo creo! ¡No me lo creo!
Ha llegado Francesco.
¡No me lo creo el golpe! ¡La va a salvar el alemán! ¡El toque es bueno! ¡No me lo creo! ¡Qué espectáculo!
Madre mía.
Se queda en el coche, le da el retrovisor, parece Alfredo Duro conduciendo.
What the hell am I watching right
¡No me
now?
puedo creer! ¡Qué puntazo! ¡Continúan! ¡Francesco de la Cruz también!
Pero ¿cómo puedes llegar a eso, tío?
¡Pero Alfredo, qué locura es esta!
¿Pero qué locura es esta? ¿Cómo puedes llegar a ese globo?
Francesco, que también llega a este punto, es una matada. ¡Lo ha salvado! ¡Lo ha salvado! ¡No me lo creo!
No se cansa, no se va a acabar nunca, madre mía, el espectáculo, el mayor espectáculo del mundo.
Oh my God.
Espectaculo.
No, it's not. For anybody out there who cannot see this, this is literally a mock-up of a living room
with a
car in the middle of it.
Yeah,
And these guys are knocking a balloon around.
and a gigantic Mentos.
I did see the Mentos, actually.
Yeah. And and
What
Peru
the
and
hell?
Germany. Peru and Germany
Yes, we have national teams.
battling it out. Yes, national teams.
This is
I think
serious.
Germany actually won the World Cup.
Oh, cool. I must have missed that. You know what this reminds me of? Did you ever see that movie Dodgeball?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, I caught that on ESPN 8, the Ocho.
The Ocho.
Yeah, obscure sports quarterly or whatever.
the Ocho. Yes.
That is definitely an obscure sport. Way to go.
That is definitely an obscure sport. Have
So
you
that's the World Cup of what? Ballooning?
the Balloon World Cup.
I was being sarcastic. Okay.
Baseball is finally over.
Yes.
And the Atlanta Braves, well, they had a parade like you usually do,
Like you would expect.
And watch the Atlanta Braves go through downtown Atlanta.
They're doing like
I did-
40 mile an hour.
I did not speed that up. They literally like zoom through downtown. Could you imagine? Atlanta already has shitty traffic as it is, but they probably had extra shitty traffic this day because everything was shut down for this parade. and you go down there, you want to see your world championship baseball team, and they zoom past you at 40 miles an hour.
God. You know, this was probably just so that people didn't have time to do the chop.
You think so?
I don't know, but they didn't have time to do anything, man. They were like, hey, okay, bye. Good Lord.
But it's a lot different than, I gotta show you that one. It's a lot different than this one. This was the WNBA just a couple of weeks ago. The WNBA, I know everybody forgot about that already. But
That's
Chicago,
not, hey, whoa. That is not fair. That is not true. WNBA is time honored, and I know that there are family members and, you know, sons and daughters of everybody who plays in the WNBA that follow them religiously.
Sure. The WNBA, well, the Chicago, I think they're called the Chicago Sky. I don't know. I don't follow the WNBA, but they had a parade too for winning. And well, look at this. There is nobody on the street.
There's at least 9 people out there, man.
These people are having coffee on top of, hey, how you doing?
Look,
in my coffee.
Buses.
Yeah, these are the team. This is the team, and their friends and significant others or whomever. But there's nobody on. This is painful. Like I feel bad for them. At least they didn't drive by 30 miles an hour, 30, 40 miles an hour down the street. But there's literally nobody came out to see them.
Well, that's probably because nobody knew. Maybe they went down the wrong road. That's probably what it is.
Bicyclists, these are actually cops. They're security. They're the security detail. Trying to keep people at bay.
They got to keep people back, man.
There's nobody to keep at bay. Look at, you got these jokers.
No, they are doing an awesome job. They've got everybody 2 blocks back. I mean, those women are safe.
Yeah, they're even did they even shut the road down? Because look, there are cars parked here on the side. Usually when you have a parade, you can't get to the road.
I know, but did you see these other people over here by their car? They're like, well, we were gonna leave, but
they're just trying to cross the street to go get a sandwich.
Yeah, we got to get across to the coffee shop over there. All right, well, hold on.
I got to get my Starbucks
here in a minute. Let's just wait. Hold up.
Oh man, I gotta wait for these buses. Where are these tourists? I want these tourists to go back.
Seriously,
go back home.
The Grand Canyon's not near here. You guys are lost. Go home. You're drunk.
Poor Chicago Sky. Kind of makes you feel bad for him. Okay, so
that's it.
A couple of weeks ago, Microsoft held some kind of event where they unveiled.
It was the unveiling of the new Windows,
of their technology, etc. But get a load of this, right? We already have people putting their pronouns in their email signatures, or after their name in forums or whatever, pren, he, him, or whatever. But look at this level of absurdity. Microsoft just took it to a whole new level.
Mm-hmm. Apparently sound is not included in this.
Seriously?
Yeah.
There's no sound?
Well, not for me anyway. Maybe everybody else out there
could. Out loud. All right. Well, let's rewind. Oh,
okay, yeah.
All right, here we go.
Now, wait, this was for their virtual reality world, right?
I don't know. No, that you're thinking of Facebook.
No.
Facebook had the virtual reality. They renamed their company Meta.
I know that. No, I thought this was okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Facebook is doing the virtual reality world. This is Microsoft. So this is a completely different company.
No,
same leftist ideology.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to Microsoft Ignite. We've got a big day ahead and lots in store for you. First, we want to acknowledge that the land where the Microsoft campus is situated was traditionally occupied by the Sammamish, the Duwamish, the Snoqualmie, the Suquamish, the Muckleshoot, the Snohomish, the Tulalip, and other Coast Salish peoples since time immemorial.
Okay. First thing, never admit to your crimes on the internet. She just came right out and said, the Microsoft campus sits on stolen land.
No, I'm telling you that okay.
Do not come out and admit, can we just don't admit your crimes on the internet?
So
or anywhere for that matter.
And maybe I am entirely wrong. I was fairly sure that the quote unquote VR world that Microsoft Ignite created, yes, I'm telling you, is actually made up of a whole bunch of races. They created basically Middle Earth. And all of these different races all exist and cohabitate. You've never heard of these for this reason. I'm telling you, you're not listening to me. I'm telling you, but this is what she's about. Yeah, that's what this whole platform is this whole little land for everybody to go wander around and play in and live in and communicate in. And you can have your corporate meetings in this world where you're represented by your avatar. That's why there's not white, Asian, English, any of those other, it's all of these freaking made up nationalities.
What the fuck are you talking about? Those were Native American tribes.
No. Okay. All right.
The Snohomish?
Yeah. The Hufflepuffs?
She goes on.
She goes on. She goes on. Go ahead.
I have no idea where your mind is.
A people that are still here, continuing to honor and bring to light their ancient heritage. My name is Allison Wines. I'm a senior program manager in our developer tools division. I'm an Asian and white female with dark brown hair wearing a red sleeveless top.
And
why do we need to know what she's wearing and what she looks like?
I don't know. Reasons and stupidity. I got nothing. It's so laughable to me.
Is that what I'm supposed to do now? Like,
yeah. Welcome to the Fusion Underground.
I'm a Hispanic male.
I'm a Caucasian male, 6'2", brown hair, brown green eyes. I'm wearing a blue hoodie and sporting a bitchin' beard.
Wait, are we supposed to do that now?
I don't know.
What's the point of that?
I think we should intro our next show that way, just to say.
And don't even give me some kind of stupid line about, well, that's for the blind people who are watching. They're blind.
They're blind.
Think they know what a red blouse is?
And what the heck does red? Colors don't mean anything to blind people. Okay. You're basically saying, and yeah, F you. I know what red looks like, and you never have known what red looks like. So that's just, I'm just going to remind you of how deprived.
So let's just rub salt in the wound of the blind. I mean, I don't.
And I'm Seth Juarez, program manager in the AI platform group. I'm a tall Hispanic male wearing a blue shirt, khaki pants. Today we kick off 2 days of learning.
Blue shirt, khaki pants. You can't even see his khaki pants on the screen.
That's why he had to tell you what he was wearing, just in case this clears up any confusion that he may actually be pantless and freeballing it out there for everybody in the studio.
Here's a check it.
Sorry, go ahead.
I don't understand any of it.
Here to help us navigate that is Vasu Jakal, Corporate Vice President of Microsoft Security. Welcome, Vasu. Thanks for joining us. Please take a seat.
Absolutely. Well, hello, Nick and Natalia. Hello, everyone. I'm so glad to be here with you all here. I'm a woman of Indian descent. I have brown hair, brown eyes, and I'm wearing some killer 5-inch heels.
Sure are.
Why? Why?
I don't even know where to go with any of this.
Dude, somebody needs to murder their publicity advisor out there, because I think that was all very, very ill-informed information that everybody jumped on.
The world just gets dumber and dumber. The beginning of our show, we have, that an iconic
Did I
soundbite
just
from
drop
Aliens
sharply while I was away?
Yeah. I feel like that is the truth. Like every single time we get together,
every week I go,
every
what the
week
hell just happened?
Did IQs drop sharply while I was away? We were only gone a week.
Yeah.
Look. Okay. So
deep breaths. All right. Take a minute. Let's recoup.
There's no way. Yeah, I refuse to believe that the average American is on board with any of this crap. I refuse to believe it. I roll to disbelieve.
No, I believe that most people hear this and they legitimately go
roll their
cross-eyed.
eyes.
No, not roll their eyes. Like seriously, dumbfounded stare. I can't imagine how many accidents this may have caused on the road for people who heard it on the radio or listening to it on a podcast. Because when you hear, there's a term in psychology called cognitive dissonance. When you hear something and it enters your mind and it completely disagrees with all capability of rational mental processes.
That's where I'm at. My brain has short-circuited over all of this.
Has a mini focal seizure. You cannot process what you're hearing through any of your normal mental faculties, to where you literally go cross-eyed and you drip one side of your lip goes down and a little bit of drool comes out of your mouth because your brain literally short circuits trying to wrap its own rational thinking around what just entered its auditory faculties. That's what happened when I heard this the first 3 times. Now I just laugh at it because I can recognize how stupid, idiotic, and retarded it is. But my brain literally went into shutdown mode.
Yeah. Well, your brain's about ready to go into shutdown mode again, because I think in this next video that I'm going to play for you, I think we should do the next podcast in this fashion.
No, I haven't seen it. I don't know it. And I'm going to disagree with you already. Because you never say we should do something without knowing you're pissing me off on purpose.
Well, here we go. Let's see what you think of this.
What do you think is the #1 contributing factor to global warming? Agriculture? The fashion industry? Something else? I'll tell you a secret. It's the U.S. military. The U.S. military is the world's largest consumer of oil. It's the world's biggest polluter. Our armed forces create 750,000 tons of toxic waste every year. Depleted uranium, jet fuel, pesticides, lead, and other chemicals too. Do you think it's a coincidence that the military emissions are often overlooked by climate studies? The Kyoto Protocol! That's why. There are actually very few things we can do that are as environmentally catastrophic as war. I think we all can see the irony that we fight these wars in order to get oil. But if we didn't fight these wars, we wouldn't need the oil. Not as much. We're like a snake eating its own tail.
That's my favorite.
There are 800 military bases around the world. Wait, are there 800 countries? There aren't. There's only 194. I'm not a mathematician, but that sounds really excessive. I know a lot of people don't want to hear this, but the only way we're going to reduce climate change is less money to the Pentagon. We can't keep supporting the military machine. I know what you're gonna say. Oh, but if we weren't the world's empire bully, then someone else would be. So it's better that it's us rather than, I don't know, China or Russia. But is it? That's basing your assumption.
I can't take it anymore. I can't take it anymore. The sad thing is about this particular video, I think that she has some interesting points. I'm not saying I have never heard these points before. I've heard all these points before. But what is up with the gyrations?
Like,
when you have a thought in your, have you ever had one of those moments where you get an idea, and upon executing the idea, you realize that the idea sounded better in your head than it did manifested in the physical world? I think this was one of those situations. I think the idea sounded a lot better in her head.
I am so sorry. I literally lost brain cell. Okay. So I'm going to have to apologize to all of our listeners who are strictly listeners. Because if you're listening to this and you're actually hearing what she's saying, granted, 90% of it is just complete retardism spewed out, but you cannot truly appreciate why I am at a loss for words. Only if you're seeing this on video can you grasp how retarded this is. And I apologize, because there isn't any way in hell I'm going to be able to describe what I just witnessed to you.
Just imagine crazy gesticulations. That's all I can describe it as. Maybe it's some kind of interpretive dance.
You know, I interpreted a full body dry heave. Actually, you know what? If you ever watched Seinfeld and you watched, was it Ellen? Elaine, that's it.
Elaine.
If you ever watched Elaine dance, that's what we just saw while she was spouting all of this off. It was really bizarre.
Okay, enough of that. Enough of that. I have an article here for you. I've been dying to read this.
Okay. Yeah, I need something that I can actually respond to, because I can't respond to that.
So I need help. I need help from you and all of our listeners in understanding this, because I don't understand this. Okay, this comes to us from the New York Post.
Well, there you go.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll try.
Right.
I'm sorry.
All right.
Go ahead.
Serious time. So
good.
From the New York Post, an article titled "What is Fluid Bonding? Intimate Sex Act is Growing in Popularity."
Fluid bonding.
Fluid bonding. It starts, this is juicy. Fluid bonding, the act of intentionally sharing bodily juices with a sexual partner. Juices. Okay, let's stop there.
I was going to say, please.
Can we define bodily juices? I've heard of, I'm familiar with bodily fluids.
Right. But well, technically, isn't having sexual intercourse kind of the mingling or sharing of bodily juices, I guess, if you will, anyway?
Well, you would think, right? So let me.
There's more to this.
Yeah.
Okay.
That wasn't the whole article.
Okay. All right.
The act of intentionally sharing bodily juices with a sexual partner is purportedly becoming a popular practice in bedrooms across the nation. Becoming a popular practice. While the origins of the frisky phrase are unclear, a variety of publications are now reporting on the randy activity, which refers to far more than simply foregoing a condom during sex. Usually, this is a quote, usually unprotected sex is just a sort of casual, barrierless, erotic experience without communication and intention. Sexologist Jenny Schuyler told Mind Body Green. In contrast, fluid bonding is done with the goal of being, quote, more connected or to have more sensation, intimacy, or commitment. So if you just don't wear a condom, that's
casual.
That's just casual. We're not being intimate.
I thought wearing a condom was for casual sex partners. I thought that was kind of always the argument for safe sex.
But then when you forgo the condom, then that's the barrierless, casual. This makes no sense to me whatsoever.
No. Well, and I ideally
none of sense.
When when you have unprotected sex, there is a risk of some sort of potentially negative or positive outcome, regardless of how you view either childbearing or the transmission of sexually transmitted diseases. You can make the argument that either one is bad as the other or whatever. Regardless, unprotected sex leaves the avenue open for a potentially unwanted outcome. Typically, in an engagement of that nature, that's not casual. That's why husbands and wives typically don't use condoms, as an example.
Right.
The potential outcome of children is actually part of the whole agreement between husband and wife, the union idea and family and childbearing. If you're spreading a STD to your wife or to your husband, then you've probably got answers that you need to account for as to how that wasn't, in the bed to begin with. But regardless, that doesn't make. Okay.
Listen to. Let me go on.
Okay. I hate you so much right now.
According to Inside Hook, whatever that is, fluid bonding with a partner, quote, is an active, conscious choice that revolves around consent and intent. Fluid bonding is a term that describes a pre-established agreement between two or more people to intentionally go without barriers. How is this any different than sex. I don't know, normal sex?
Yeah, if it's an agreement, I mean, typically, if it's not agreed upon, that's usually called rape.
What's the term when I'm not all hip to the lingo? Isn't there a term when like a dude slips off the condom during consensual sex?
I don't know.
There's a term for that.
I don't look at me.
Stealthing? Is that right? Is it?
What?
Is it called stealthing? Maybe it's called stealthing.
I don't know, but that's not right, man.
There's a term for that. There's a term for like.
You know what? There's a term for everything. Right now, there's a term called fluid bonding that I'm still not any closer to understanding than when I was when you started.
But my point being that I don't know what my point is.
I was like, what is your point?
I don't know.
I am all ears, man.
I don't know.
Who brought this up?
I don't know. I like how they say in here, as fluid bonding. Okay, wait, blah, 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 blah. Okay, while unprotected sex is one way to practice fluid bonding, there are several ways to go about the intimate activity, as fluid bonding also refers to the exchange of sweat, saliva, and blood. It can be practiced via oral sex, anal sex, or even a simple French kiss. So when you French kiss somebody, that's now called fluid bonding. However,
I guess that was called making out.
That was just called, that was just called, first
And guess
base.
what? That was also consensual, just
right, correct.
By happenstance, I suppose.
However, polyamorous pansexual influencer
what?
Marjane Lane has cautioned that those who practice fluid bonding are at risk of contracting STIs. No shit, you reckon?
Oh, no way. Holy.
Did somebody just wake up one day and realize that there's this thing called sex? We don't know what it's called because, well, our generation has never done it, so we're just going to call it fluid bonding. I don't understand. I don't understand what's happening here.
Well, we're renaming everything else. Why not rename sex too?
Yeah, why not? Fluid bonding.
We're going to call it fluid bonding. That sounds a lot different. It sounds more intimate. It sounds more sophisticated than saying having sex. There's a reason why oral sex has the word sex in it.
In it.
There's a reason why anal sex has the word sex in it. Gross. There's a reason. I mean, it just, I don't, okay.
I honestly, I don't know.
So wait, is that it?
Yeah, that was that enough? You
wait a minute. I was expecting you to drop the hammer and lay it out. Okay.
That was it. That we just have people that have discovered the fact that if you have sex and you share bodily juices,
a minute.
That somehow.
Wait. Okay. Whoa. Stop. You started this article out saying, no, you started as in relaying. Take it easy. Don't get defensive. I know this is not your fault. That somebody, and I can't remember who the magical somebody is, has discovered, as if they were Christopher Columbus, that fluid bonding is on the rise. In compared to what?
It makes you wonder how our species has even gotten this far. How have we made it this far? That's a serious question. I honestly don't think we're going to be able to make it another 2,000 years.
No. There's actually, what movie was that? Was it Idiocracy? No.
Idiocracy, the greatest
Idiocracy.
documentary ever recorded.
Yep. That's where we're headed. That's where we're headed. I mean, we're literally at a point where we have self-proclaimed experts. These are experts, and I'm using the air quotes very, very intentionally. A lot of times, like a lot of times, who are seriously saying that sex is not called sex; it's called fluid bonding. We actually talked about this when we were discussing. They were offensive words, where we're actually changing the name of parts of our anatomy so that they're not as offensive anymore. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, seriously, we're going to dumb ourselves down on purpose.
Yeah.
To the point where we cannot think anymore. And okay, so tying all of this into our generalized mission statement here at the Fusion Underground, we've played a couple different clips. We've read an article or two where really we have people out there telling us how we should act, how we should think. And all of them cause a very serious mental breakdown if you actually listen to what they're saying.
This whole evening has been filled with, what did you call it? Cognitive dissonance.
Cognitive dissonance. Yes.
I have another one that I just discovered. I just discovered this one.
Okay. All right. Let's go.
And this actually takes us back to the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Okay.
There's a gentleman on Twitter. His name is Gregory McKelvey. And I'm not doxing anybody because he literally goes by that on Twitter. He tweeted out just a little bit ago, employers, consider giving your Black employees a day or two off after the Rittenhouse verdict. Regardless of the outcome, It's going to be hard for Black people to work, and it isn't fair to expect them to.
No. Stop. No, wait a minute. Wait a minute. Hold the phone. Okay. Now, not everybody has been following the Rittenhouse
Right.
case.
I understand.
Right. Let me ask you a question for everybody else out there.
Sure. Ask away.
Between the victims and the accused, who's Black?
I am so glad you asked that question. None of them.
No, wait, hold on. Let me clarify. So this is not the first march of the racists or racism crowd that I have heard in regards to this case. So let me ask this question again.
Okay.
Of the parties involved in the shooting, who among them are Black?
Glad you asked. The answer would be 0. None of them.
None persons.
None persons are Black. None persons are brown either. Wait, I'll even go one further. All of the attorneys are white.
Dr. Ramirez, are you saying to me that all of the individuals in this case are white?
That is correct.
So that would mean race has no bearing on this case.
It does, but for white people, perhaps.
Oh, please elaborate.
Well, you know, they're all white.
Oh. So racism does not apply.
So racism does not apply because we had a white guy shoot 3 white guys. We have white guys defending the white guy. We have white guys prosecuting the white guy. And we have a white guy listening to both sides of prosecution and defense.
So why is racism continually get brought up in this case, I wonder? And what the hell is giving a Black employee a day or 2 off have anything to do with the outcome of this? Please tell me this poor man on Twitter has signed off, closed his account, recanted, apologized for his idiotic statements.
Oh, they're dragging him. That's for sure. And the response is, guess what? Pronouns in bio. Gregory McKelvey, he goes by he, him.
Yeah. Okay. I've heard this before. Why is this happening?
Because it's a narrative. Well, I mean, it's happening because the media has a stake here. I think the media has ginned all of this up in the hopes that there is additional unrest because, well, that gets the clicks and that sells the newspapers, and they continue to stoke the fire, if you will.
And I have said from the beginning that this is and was initially a BLM issue. And they made a shooting a BLM issue because of when it was happening. And you have to take the timing of all this into context. Remember the absolute firestorm. I mean that figuratively, not literally in this case, that the media was fueling at the time this happened. So they fueled this up way beyond what it was supposed to be and way before they had the facts of anything. I mean, that the news was blasting this out within an hour of the initial reports coming in.
Yeah.
So they completely ran with this. And rather than walk this back, they chose to turn it into something else to their advantage. Can you imagine if there was a police report that happened, let's say in, I don't know, Chicago, that a white assailant shot and killed 3 white guys? How much attention would that get?
Yeah.
None.
None.
None or none attentions. Effectively 0.
Right.
But because this happened during a BLM protest in regards to the George Floyd incident, and it also involved an AR. See, that's how this has all changed again. And I brought that up at the beginning of this. This is now an assault weapons issue as well. That's where this is heading. That's where this whole defense is. Don't pay attention to the handgun or the agitators in this situation. Pay attention to this guy that we are painting as a white supremacist, AR toting enemy of the state. And because of that's the caricature we are trying to build up, he's guilty, as is everyone else out there who resembles him in any way.
Well, my fear about this trial is if any of this stands, if any of these crazy arguments stands and he's convicted, there will now be precedent for future shootings. And essentially, if anybody is reacting and responding in self-defense, there will be precedent that shows that's not actually self-defense. And I think that's really what a lot of liberals want, is they see this as a direct attack against the Second Amendment, against people who bear arms. And this is an opportunity. And they recognize that if they can get a conviction out of this, if they can put enough pressure on the judge and on the jury to actually convict Kyle Rittenhouse, when, if anything, that this trial has shown is that the young man responded in remarkable ways in a very stressful and dangerous situation. I think probably better than you or I would have.
Yeah. No, there was a significant amount of control and restraint demonstrated.
Extreme
beyond what, again, the caricature of the person that they are trying to paint.
Right.
Keep in mind that character, the Rambo that literally loaded his guns and his combat gear in a satchel and went all the way across the country in order to bring violence to the violent situation. That lone wolf, that vigilante, that type person, that's a character that they are building out of him, the actor.
And even though he just went 30 minutes across town.
Right. Yeah, he went 30 minutes across town.
It was literally 30 minutes across town. And they say, well, he crossed state lines. Sure, but he went 30 minutes across town.
Well, and I've heard this crossing state lines too. How many thousands of people were literally bussed into those riots?
Of course.
Again, if you're going to make that argument that he didn't belong there and crossing state lines is some sort of violation, then everyone else there would have been in violation of that same rule.
Yeah. Here's an article that I wanted to show you. I don't know if I'm going to be able to display all of it. Okay, yeah, I was able to. Okay, so this is an article. It has to deal with masculinity here. We often talk about masculinity, well, because we're guys. This one comes to us from The Independent over in the UK, and it's titled, "Is Toxic Masculinity the Reason There Are So Many Climate Hesitant Men?"
What? Toxic masculinity is, causing climate hesitant men.
Yeah, in other words, is toxic masculinity keeping people like you and I from believing in climate change and from keeping us from doing something to save the planet?
Gotcha.
This was written by a woman. Her name's Kate. Her name is Kate. I don't know how to pronounce her last name. I believe it's like Vietnamese or something. It's NG. That's all. I don't know how to pronounce that. I'm not even going to try.
Okay.
So this article starts off, "The climate crisis has been at the top of nearly every political and social agenda this past fortnight, with the eyes of the world on the United Nations Climate Change Conference. that has been taking place in Glasgow. I'm going to skip ahead here. The UK's chief scientific advisor, Sir Patrick Vallance, stressed the importance of behavioral changes as part of climate action. While at the summit, he said that while most of us assume making greener choices means dramatic changes to our everyday habits, most of these changes are easier than we think. I think behavioral change is starting. Is it where it needs to be yet? Probably not. And I think there's more to go, Vallance explained, but I think there's a willingness and an engagement taking place that's going to be important. A new study has found that around half of the world's population needs to do more to tackle the climate crisis. It said that men in particular need to be more willing to change their habits to become more eco-friendly compared to women. The report by think tank Global Future also found that significantly more women experience high levels of eco-anxiety compared to men, with 45% of women reporting feeling anxious about the climate crisis compared to 36% of men. Do you have, Jason, do you have eco-anxiety?
No.
Oh. Well, you must be a toxic masculine man.
Well, that is correct.
Okay.
Wait, now, okay. I think it's important to qualify this. Let's take the term eco out of the anxiety. Can you read that statement and remove the term eco and see if it holds true? Try it.
Okay. The report by think tank Global Future also found that significantly more women experience high levels of anxiety compared to men, with 45% of women reporting feeling anxious about the climate crisis compared to 36% of men.
Okay, so even if you take climate crisis, would you agree, and I'm being very honest, would you agree that 45% of women admit to feeling anxious, where only 36% of men do, about anything?
So I don't necessarily know if it would be to that level of percent. I would say that on average, women tend to feel more anxiety than men do.
Yes.
Just as a general rule.
As a general rule. And I think, and so I'm not being an ass, I'm actually looking at data. And you and I talked about studies here not long ago, and looking and quantifying and qualifying data.
Right.
I do believe that women, and I'm not trying to be sexist, I'm trying to look at this as objectively as possible. Women as a whole deal with anxiety far more than men do. I'm not saying men don't. I'm not saying that, women are inferior or men are inferior or superior or anything. I'm just simply stating the fact. Women toil and over things a lot more than men do, which is where anxiety can stem from.
Well, and I also think that when it comes to differences between the sexes, that women have a greater tendency or propensity to worry about things external to themselves and even external to their family. They'll worry about their girlfriends, they'll worry about their mother, their grandmother, they'll worry about different family members, they worry about their neighborhood or the neighbors down the street. Whereas a lot of men, they keep their worry to them focused around their immediate
sphere of influence,
if you will. Right.
It's their immediate sphere of influence. And I believe, I don't think that was Freud, but anyway, there's a prominent psychologist talked about that things that women concern themselves with or occupy their mental faculties with do extend well beyond their sphere of influence because, and it's a preparatory or protective nature, the den mother in most women that's naturally there, because those things may enter into that sphere and that protective area. So they want to be prepared for it. Again, it's not saying it's a bad thing. It's simply guys, males, this is the amount of proverbial stuff we can control or have any influence on.
And anything more than that, I don't want to handle it.
I got enough going on right here in this little bubble.
Yep.
That's all I worry about.
Right. And that's actually a good trait for women to have. And I think that's one of the reasons why we always hear about this, particularly in families, how it usually is the matriarch of the family who keeps that larger family who's now growing up and moving beyond the familial borders,
extended
right?
family. Right.
Right. It's the matriarch who keeps pulling everybody together. She's the one who keeps having Thanksgiving dinner and Christmas at her house. And she's the reason why everybody gets together every year, because mom is saying, come over, you're going to come over, we're hosting Thanksgiving, et cetera, et cetera. And families often admit that when the matriarch of the family passes away, that everybody kind of disperses.
Yes.
Right. There's no longer that glue that is keeping everybody together. The reason why the matriarch is that glue is because she does worry about everybody, and she does reach out to those folks and wants to know how they're doing and keeping touch with them and all of that, and making sure that she's worried enough about them so much that she draws them back home so that they can at least spend some amount of time together. That's a good thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
We're not saying that that's a bad thing.
No.
So
but
I think
I'm sorry.
I was going to say, in this particular report, I think what they're doing is they're taking something that is naturally occurring within men and women, and they're trying to say, well, this is a problem because more women are eco anxious. Well, if they are, okay, that's a completely different argument. But the fact that more women have that experience, well, that just kind of tells me that that's a natural DNA occurrence.
Right. What this study actually points out to me is a difference in the male and female psyche in regards to anxiety as a whole, and has nothing to do to make that equation that data supports an argument in particular towards the climate is erroneous to me.
Right. The article goes on and says, male and female spending habits also show a divide in our response to global heating. Global Futures report titled A Crisis in Common found that some 40% of female respondents say they have changed the way they buy and eat food in order to help fight climate change. In contrast, just 27% of male respondents reported doing the same. The figures are similar when it comes to buying clothes, with almost 34% of female respondents saying they have changed their habits, compared to 16% of male respondents. But what is behind men's reluctance to alter their everyday habits in order to become part of climate action? And more importantly, what can be done to encourage them to be more proactive in climate justice? I want to throw those questions to you. What is behind men's reluctance? What do you think is behind men's reluctance to alter their everyday habits in order to become part of climate action?
I think men look at a handful of things when they look at their normal day-to-day habits. And I'll use the purchasing power analogy. Guys look at a couple different things. When I go buy something, I go, how expensive is it? That's first.
Sure.
If I go buy a t-shirt and I have t-shirt A, which is $20, and t-shirt B, which is $50, the likelihood is I'm just going to buy t-shirt A.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to worry about what the tag says about the climate impact in its production. I'm not. And I think a lot of men are like that. The other thing we look for is potentially, I would say, is quality. Now, if I'm looking at t-shirt A and B, I'll use that same analogy, and I grab t-shirt A and I go, this thing is going to fall apart in a week, then I may look at t-shirt B. If it's going to last as long or longer, I may be able to justify cost. And that's, I think a lot of guys actually look at those things, whether it's their spending habits, the things that they invest in, whether it's time or money, is guys are looking at, those are things that within that immediate sphere of control, again, that they can actually grasp onto. And what's the return on that investment? And it's usually has to be realized within a relatively short period of time. We don't look at returns gained in other generations. as an example, because, and I think this was actually something that we brought up in our review of the book. As providers, we're looking out for their immediate family. We want to be able to provide for them and their immediate needs. I don't know that a whole lot of guys go to and take that provider level as how are we going to provide for our children's children. I want to raise my children so that they provide for their children. That's within that immediate small sphere of influence.
And I agree with you. And I think that there's also a difference between men and women here in that I think women are more inclined to get caught up in what feels good. And I think a lot of men are not. In fact, I think a lot of men sort of question whether or not they should do something just simply because it feels good. And I'm not talking about, obviously, if there's sex involved, guys are gonna be like, well, let's go do that. You know, what I mean is, like, if you were to walk into a store and you see a product that just a product, and maybe you're shopping for that product, or you've had your eye on a new power drill or something, right? And it's got a sticker slapped on it that says this is eco-friendly. What the hell does eco-friendly mean, right? What does that mean? It's made sustainably. I'm just supposed to take your word for that. And just because you say it's eco-friendly, I'm supposed to believe you that it's eco-friendly? Hell, everybody's slapping eco-friendly on everything. It's called marketing. Right. And we've had, as men, women have had a lot of things marketed to them in the past as well. But men we're also privy to a lot of that. We recognize that, you know what, if I buy the Mustang, I'm not going to get chicks. I know that's not going to happen.
Right.
So quit trying to tell me that I'm going to get chicks if I buy the Mustang, because I know it's not going to happen. I know you're lying to me. Right.
Or I'm married and God forbid I actually do, then I'm in even bigger trouble.
Right. So why are you marketing it that way to me? So even if you do slap something on a sticker on something that says this is eco-friendly, I'm not going to take your word for it.
Well, and okay, we'll take the power drill. Does it have a battery? Well, then it ain't eco-friendly in its production. I can tell you that right now.
But I think guys are just more. I think guys are just less inclined to do something just simply because it feels good.
Yeah.
I'm less inclined to recycle just because it feels good to recycle. When I know that the paper recycling plants are allowed to dump all of their chemicals back into the earth that they use to break down the paper into mulch and all that and remake new paper, I know that they're not beholden to any standards or very little standards when it comes to disposing of their chemical waste.
Right.
So for me, when if somebody tries to tell me recycle the paper because it's better for the environment, I'm like, is it really better for the environment, or do you just think it's better for the environment?
Right. Or when I talk to my buddy who works at waste management at the landfill, and they say, dude, those recycles go in that same heap over there that your regular trash goes in. It just does. You just take a different colored truck on Wednesday instead of Friday.
Yeah, you can tell somebody that. You can show them that it actually does. And I guarantee you that the eco-conscious will still continue to separate out the recyclables because it makes them feel better.
Sure.
It doesn't matter whether or not it's actually doing any good. It makes them feel better. And I think that's the point that I'm trying to make, is that I think a lot of men, most men, we don't give a crap about whether or not it makes us feel better, because we're not getting rid of this item. It's the act of getting rid of it that makes us feel better, not because I put it in the blue container.
I'm telling you right now, my trash service, I have 1 fee and I have those cans out there, 2 dumpsters. I know that if I separate my recycles and my trash, at least I'm getting what I pay for. And I now have 2 pickups a week to get rid of all my crap instead of 1.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm getting what I paid for if I throw my water bottle in the blue one versus throwing it in the green one or the brown one. And so it's a value for me. Well, I'm paying for it. I might as well use it. And on top of that, when it goes out of my driveway, I don't care because it's out of my hands.
Right. It's not my problem.
Do anything about it. What am I going to do? Follow behind in my truck and follow behind the recycle bin guy and make sure when he takes it out to the landfill, he dumps it in the right place? No. It's outside of my immediate sphere of influence and therefore not my concern.
There used to be a show. There used to be a show, I think it was on Showtime, that Penn and Teller used to do called Bullshit. And they did an episode one time where they put different colored trash bins, and they asked people, people had two bins, one for regular trash and the other for recyclables. And then they would bring in another bin and say, well, we want you to put glass in this bin and then plastic in this other bin and paper in another bin, right? And before you knew it, in front of these households, there were like 12 different bins out there in front of their house. And people were, oh yeah, it's for the environment because it feels good. They didn't go through any kind of, nobody bothered to say, wait a minute, this is a little ridiculous. Right. And I think your average Joe six-pack dude says, wait, what's in it for me? Right? If I'm not going to get something out of this, if I'm not going to get my return on investment, if I'm not going to satisfy my immediate need, then I'm not going to do it.
Right.
There's no point. I'd rather go do something else that's more beneficial of my time because I have all this crap that I have to take care of in my house and upgrades and fixes, and I got to go to work, and I got to pick up the kids because the wife is screaming at me and yada yada, my honey-do list, right? The average dude isn't going to say, oh, well, I should do that because it's going to make the world feel better.
Right.
No, we don't care about that. It's out of our control, and therefore I don't want any part of it.
Well, and you remember, well, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but when, gosh, it had to be at least 20, 25 years ago, you could not recycle like shoebox material or cereal boxes. Do you remember that? You had to look at the recycling logo and make sure you had the right number on there. Otherwise it was not recyclable.
Right.
I actually had a buddy of mine tell me, I think it was a year ago, that you can no longer recycle like red Solo cups. I said, what? That's ridiculous. Why? That doesn't make any sense. And he said, I don't know. And I'm like, well, what do you mean you don't know? You just told me you can, and this was not, oh, I heard or supposedly. No, it was definitive. You can't recycle those anymore. And I said, why? Explain it to me. And the best this person could come up with was, well, there's so many of them out being used and, at parties and things that there are residual chemicals or things on the inside of those cups that now render them unrecyclable. And I said, you realize that if that is true, then nothing is recyclable at all, because every container, anything with a box, and I mean box means any container with a closure or even an open container, everything has had something in it. Otherwise, it would be called new, not something you would need to recycle. By your own argument, that doesn't make any damn sense. There's no such thing. Even my water bottle here, as pure as we want to agree this is, okay? As soon as I open it and put it up to my mouth, guess what? It's now got residual mouth jizz on it. Are you telling me
mouth jizz
that it is now no longer recyclable?
No.
And this is what I was talking about. Everybody out there, there is a silver lining to all of this kind of mumbo jumbo. Think about what you're being told. Does it make sense? There is nothing wrong with asking legitimate questions about it. Don't swallow everything you're told just for the simple fact of not being contrary. I'm not saying go out there and pick a fight with every time somebody tells you something, but take a moment to think about what you are hearing. And if it doesn't make sense, ask questions. Ask a question. If it still doesn't, it's probably bullshit. Because right now in our society, we are getting fed loads and loads of crap every day. And they continue to do it for the simple fact that nobody has the testicular fortitude to ask a damn question. And we swallow it blindly. America, you are better than that. Okay, that's my
I think far too many people, they want to be hope-filled. You know, I saw just today on Facebook, you know, there are a lot of people that are very, even people, and by people I'm referring to Democrats, people who voted for Joe Biden. There are a lot of people that now have buyer's remorse, a lot.
Yeah.
And I noticed there was a post on Facebook today, and then there was a reply to it. And the post was about, you know, how Joe Biden sucks, he's terrible, yada, yada. And this person responded and said, yeah, he's way over his head. He's not doing good. But at the time when I cast my vote, Joe Biden was the only one who could give us a chance. Okay. And I thought, wait a minute, you were literally talking about, at the time you cast your vote, you were living in the best economy the United States has ever had. What exactly were you hoping that Biden was going to do for you that Trump was already nailing it out of the park? So you have this complete disconnect where people were living in the best of times and they believe that it was the worst of times.
This is twice today I've been reminded of that song by Cinderella. Don't know what you got till it's gone.
Till it's gone. Right.
And it takes going through literal hell for people to realize how good they had it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, there are a lot of people waking up now, which tells me that yes, we are literally going through hell. And you cannot talk about what you're saying. We had literally the best economy the United States has had in decades or ever. But people didn't realize that because they were focusing on the things that they still did not have.
Correct.
Which is what, I mean, kind of what we've been talking about. When you focus on all the stuff you don't have, you're never appreciative of the things you do and the opportunities you have and that are right in front of you. It literally takes all of that stuff and all of that opportunity and all of that money and all of that wealth and all of that ability to be stripped from you. And it takes gas getting up to, $5 a gallon, which, stay tuned, everybody. Christmas is coming and I have a Christmas gift for you. $5. Be prepared. National average. It's coming.
But
it takes
Biden will get reelected. Biden, mark my words, Biden will get reelected. And the reason why he will get reelected is because the same people that don't realize how good they had it under Trump now are realizing that they have it really bad under Biden. That they will perceive as though it's going to be worse if whoever else comes up, if they were to win over Biden, that it's going to be even worse under that person.
The only way I agree with that is if Biden literally cannot stand to take office, which he won't. I'm sorry, there's no way. And Kamala Harris is the only option. In that case, I'll agree with that statement.
There's actually talk now that she might actually run in 2024 against him. There's already talk of numerous Democrats are already planning on running or are thinking about running against it. This is
Yeah,
I shouldn't say it's
within-
unprecedented, but it's just not very common.
Especially
Usually,
not within the Democratic Party.
well, whenever you have a sitting president and he, and it's always been a he up to this point, whenever he's going to run for re-election, he's always been the definitive. There's typically not a primary, right? Because he's already the head of the party. And so that primary just kind of sits down. Usually states still have primaries because you have to, but there will be 50 other people on the ballot, even for the Republican or the Democrat, but they're nobodies. They're not going to win, right? But now we're actually in a point where other Democrats are thinking, you know what, Biden is so weak, I'm going to run against him. But I still think Biden wins because you're going to have so many people who are going to be they're going to be manipulated by the media to believe that, yeah, things are bad, but it'll be worse if somebody else takes over.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that the groundwork has already started for that.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that gets back to what we were saying, question things. And is it really going to be bad?
Things can always get worse. I am not going to sit here and tell you.
Things can always get worse. But I also think that there are a lot of people that will just be completely delusional because, well, quite frankly, they're going to believe that any Republican is a racist, bigot, homophobe. And so therefore they can't, they're evil because that's just what they've been led to believe for so long that they're not going to be willing to believe anything different. And so the odds, the ability for a Republican to come in wanting to cut taxes, wanting to create prosperity, and wanting to do all of these things, they're going to be viewed as evil. And I've said it before and I'll say it again. Liberals view conservatives as evil people with evil ideas.
Right.
There is no way you're going to convince diehard Democrats, even if they're not happy with Joe Biden, you're not going to convince them at all to vote for a Republican, even if it's in their best interest. They will not do so.
I agree with that, with a caveat. You have to look at the success in the midterms that the Republican Party has had and at least be able to see a possibility within that. I mean, you saw what happened in Virginia. And I understand that midterm elections are not presidential elections. And there is a huge difference there. So I can acknowledge that fact. However, like you're saying, even on the Twitter platforms or Facebook and other places like that, you are seeing people waking up.
You will have people voting. I do think that the Republicans stand a good chance of securing the House of Representatives, winning in a landslide in the midterms. But historically, when Americans go to vote, where they tend to vote for the other party is when they vote for their congressman.
Yes.
And so while it's very possible, but traditionally, when you look at Americans voting, there's a disconnect between the executive branch and the congressional branch and the legislative branch. And so while people may turn out in the midterms to vote for the GOP,
they don't tend to cross party lines.
They're not going to cross those party lines when it comes to the executive side. And that's why Joe Biden he'll win. How can a guy win an election sitting in his basement, not campaigning at all, running against the president who had the best economy in the history of the United States? And it's because people will not take a look at what is actually in their best interest, and because Democrats truly believe that Republicans are evil people with evil ideas. There's nothing you can say to them that is going to change their mind. Not a thing. The only way that those people change their mind is through their own personal experience, which means they have to fall flat on their face and they have to experience that pain firsthand. But I don't even believe that they're going to experience any pain from any of this, especially when they go to the pump. And when they see in California, there are already places where it's over $7 for unleaded gasoline.
Yeah.
Right. $7, $8 for a gallon of gasoline.
Yep. We're not, my prediction of $5, that's national average.
That's national average.
Mhm.
But yet Californians know that the reason why gasoline is so expensive in California, yes, it's partly to do with federal taxes on a gallon of gas, but it's also a lot to do with state taxes on a gallon of gas. And guess what? California continues to vote for the Democrats to raise their taxes. So you would think, a normal person would think, gosh, California, your state is going into the shitter. Stop voting for that. And yet they continue to do so, even when their gasoline is $7, $8 a gallon, because they still believe that Republicans are evil people with evil ideas. And so for them to be able to vote for a Democrat and pay $8 a gallon, yeah, it sucks, but at least evil didn't win.
Yeah. Can you imagine the kind of prosperity that California could realize? I mean, you look
it would go back to the way it was when Reagan was governor of California. It was massively prosperous.
California is it's almost a country in and of itself, with as far as what it actually has able to produce and what it has able to offer as far as product. I mean, there's no reason why California cannot, just rake in prosperity for everyone.
Sure.
And that is the key right now. California, it's raking in prosperity for the government.
Of course. And even though there are so many examples just in California where people are paying exorbitant taxes, where people have lost liberties, people have lost just privileges that they used to enjoy all the time 10, 20 years ago. And yet they still believe in California, in Detroit, that Republicans are evil people with evil ideas. Therefore, it's better for me to suffer under the weight of government oppression, because at least the evil guys are not in control of the government.
Right.
Because yes, my life might suck under the Democrat rule, but at least it's better than having the evil people have rule over my life.
Right.
That is where we are in this country. And that's why Democrats will continue to win. And that's why they'll continue to give away freebie stuff, because once you give somebody free medical care paid to them by the federal government, they're never going to vote for somebody who wants to come in and eliminate that.
Sure. Right.
Because now I'm going to lose my insurance, my medical coverage. So I can't do that. So you'll always have the Democrats giving more and more candy to the population, knowing full well that the population will then become indebted and they won't want to do without. And therefore they'll keep perpetuating that, even though life will be miserable under that kind of
and what happens is people in those places start to believe that that's what life is.
Yes.
Not a direct suffrage under the people who have made their lives that way.
Correct.
They don't tie their suffering to the people in power who actually make their life hell.
Right. And the truth of the matter is the country has a slight chance until Texas goes blue. And I'm telling you, Texas is going blue probably within 5 years. All you have to do is look at the voting patterns in Texas, and Republicans are winning by by decreasingly shorter margins. And there's gonna come a day very, very soon when Texas goes blue, and then it's all over.
It's over. Yep.
And we're so close right now because, you know, you've got states like Florida and Ohio and Indiana, which are, you know, which could go either way. North Carolina, you know, these states can go either way, either red or blue. And all it really takes is one or two of those states flipping, you know, and going blue one time, and the whole election is lost. At least for Republicans, from a Republican standpoint. But once, you know, and then once that happens, well, and you'll see Republicans, the party won't vanish overnight. They'll just become more and more and more and more like Democrats so that they can try to win votes.
Right.
So they can try to appear as less evil. And which is why I've said for the past couple of years now, you know, the Republican Party is a shitbag. And they don't do anything for America anymore. No,
they don't. And unfortunately, what they don't realize is by doing that, instead of trying to appease and appear more quote unquote moderate, and appeal to they're trying to appeal to those, I guess, Democratic or, you know, moderate Democrats. They're losing touch with their conservative base. They're like, well, shit, if I've got a choice between a liberal over here and a Republican over here, you guys are practically the same. So either I'm not going to vote, or heck, I might as well vote for the other guy. At least he'll forgive all my student loans, or, you know, give me a free healthcare. Why not? I'm not going to get anything better out of you. And that's how we lose hold. We lose a foothold on our country, state by state.
All right, good times.
Okay, yeah, that was uplifting. Thank you for that.
Yeah, you're welcome. All right, well, you can catch all of our stuff off of the fusionunderground.net. Remember, we're on Facebook. Just plug in whatever you want, fusionunderground.net. You'll find us. Way to sell it, right?
Yeah, wow. I'm glad we don't have you on our marketing team.
Yeah, you don't want me on your marketing team.
I think we should carve out 10 minutes at least of our next episode to respond to email questions. What do you think?
All right, let's do it.
Okay. So there's your charge, America. Send us your email questions and we'll respond to them next week.
You can send it to contact@fusionunderground.net. That's contact@fusionunderground.net. Until next time, for Jason Moret, I'm Manuel Ramirez. You've been listening to Fusion Underground. Peace, we're late.